First place in Spain, top of the podium. Feels good to be back.
Yeah, podium in Spain. But what's next?
Yeah!
Hello everyone, CD Racing here, and welcome in for episode 10 of our Dirt Rally 2 Rallycross Career Mode playthrough. Now, loading into Abu Dhabi for the first time in this career mode. It's an exciting track, lots of high-speed sectors, technical dirt sections matched with high-speed tarmac sections. Getting the setup right for this car was a bit wild, and learning to cope with the AI, and not as wild. In fact, we're going to spend most of this episode chasing the highest leaderboard time that we can, because once again, the AI did not bring it this weekend. But that is not going to stop us from pursuing greatness. No warm-up, no nothing, qualifying one. Let's see exactly how this weekend plays out. All right, so loading onto the grid here. First thing to keep in mind, these low gear ratio all-wheel drive cars hate low-speed tarmac sections. They are understeer, wheel hop demons, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about here in this first qualifier. We're going to go ahead and stay on board whole time, not in third person. Let me shuffle through the cameras here and load up for the lights. See if our reaction times are as on point as they were down in Spain. But let's see how we go here. Lights go up and so do the revs. Let's see how our launch is. All right, and holding the revs as those lights go out, waiting for the green lights. We're going to see how we launch compared to everyone else here. And lights go green. You see our front end kick up way before theirs did. And like I said, the AI at this stage kind of stinkers. Going into turn one, no competition from anyone else. And we're just going to slot in on the racing line and continue business as usual. Going into turn one again, down into this sweeping hairpin. What I was talking about with these all-wheel drive cars, you're going to hear the tires screeching hard every time we go into that hairpin, and it's either send it and drift it or try to stay for grip. And when you send it and drift it, you open yourself up to overtakes just like that. Left it wide. A. Johnson swings through the inside, fighting us for position. Now we're going to hold the inside line over the dirt, back onto the tarmac, and a long sweeping corner on tarmac, right back into dirt. And you saw right there that kick of the handbrake. We learned very quickly a great way to take that corner. It might not be the most realistic, and our tire supplier is probably going to hate us, but you'll see what I'm talking about later in the weekend. And now for the final section, coming out of the regular lap, not Joker, you see it's pretty high speed from dirt back onto tarmac, immediately into an S section, and now into that asphalt hairpin. You're just going to power out, find the edge of the track just like that. Now we're going to race in the beginning like track limits are a thing, but as we really start pushing for some of these leaderboard times, we can swing this car out very wide and get quite a bit of speed through that section. But I wanted to mix third person and first person so you guys can get a taste for what this track is in the first qualifying year. So back into this long section, swing it out wide early, power in for an early apex, actually a late apex. We're aiming for that second sausage curve, and now you're going to see the Joker for the first time. So it's back on tarmac, around two sausage curves for a little S section. You're going to swing it out wide and then line up with the pit straight with people in the dirt and come back out right into the S section. You can see we are now behind Mr. A. Johnson, getting very overzealous behind him. I wanted to get behind him, but again, these all-wheel drive cars on tarmac, they have a tendency to oversteer and understeer at the same time. Now, that might be a little bit of a driver error. It's definitely a setup issue because I did not touch the car until very later in the weekend. But for now, making it work. I'd rather cope with oversteer and catch the drift than, understeer off the track every time. So that's going to be the driving style that I approach this weekend. You see me kicking the rear out wide, find that second sausage curve and power out. And look how much more speed we have going into that section, having to hit the brakes to avoid Mr. Johnson going into the end of lap 3. Now for the final lap, top hand side of your screen on the right side, you'll notice everyone can see who has and hasn't taken their jokers. And I know Johnson has not jokered. So realistically, unless he absolutely flies through this final sector, which it looks like he is, we should be okay to overtake him. But it appears I'm eating my words. Rocketing into the distance is Mr. A. Johnson. I don't know what they put in his car this weekend, but this early tarmac section is his for the taking. And we're going to have to cope. Oh my God. All right, so looks like we've got quite a bit to learn this weekend. And I told you guys we're going to be chasing leaderboard times. And after this show, you might be asking, in what world? But I promise we get better. We learn from our mistakes, and rolling the car in the first qualifier, our dreams of catching A. Johnson surely shattered as he sends it across the finish line. And we are still not that far behind him. 3:16.605 is our first time for the weekend. And it looks like Keanu's giving us a thumbs up. We got the A-OK from him, and we're going to load into qualifying 2, see if we can do a little bit better. But before we do that, I'm going to show y'all the flip in third person. I know y'all want to see what happened. Here we go, tarmac section. Hit the first sausage curve, swing out wide because of that, nail the second one, and just flip the car. Yeah, sometimes when it comes to my driving,
sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
you literally never know. And isn't that fun? It's always a mystery when you log onto the CD Racing channel. But going into qualifying 2, we've learned from our mistakes. We're going to try and not flip the car and actually win. We've already fumbled our Grand Slam back-to-back weekends, so Abu Dhabi proving technically a little more difficult. But going into qualifying 2, second on the grid, a lot of people around us. Let's see how we match up. All right, Keanu talking his mess before the lights go off. I don't know what he was saying, but as the lights go up, so do the revs. Watch for those green lights. See how good of a reaction we can get out of here. And there they go, launching hard. Now, I must say, reaction time there was actually around 0.3 of a second, which is okay, if we're being completely honest. And because of that, you see me, middle of the pack, middle of the heat, contact everywhere. Can't even keep track of how many people hit each other right there. But dive bombing into the first tarmac hairpin does allow us second place on track. And of course, this is the beginning of the first lap. Nobody has jokered yet, but it seems like Kay Jensen, a returning troublemaker in this series, has found himself in a very early lead, managing to avoid all that first lap kerfuffle, and he's already got a 2-second gap out in lap 1. And in Rallycross, on these short tracks, 2-second gap, that's a lot to come back from. We're going to try and hit it here. You see me hitting that curb way too early, hopping the car. We're going to take that joker lap. Even if we're not leading, I love taking the joker lap first lap because we have the rest of the race to find our racing line, find a groove, and just improve as much as you can. And I love consistency when I can find it. So 55.5, our first lap out of the gates, and now a 3-second gap to Kay Jensen with the joker delta only being a 1.9. Yeah, it's time to play some tactics. We're going to abuse the track limits here all the way out wide. It allows us to accelerate faster and then dive bomb into this tarmac section, hard on the brakes, rip the handbrake, find it around, and send yourself into the dirt section. Yes, I told you guys, we're going to learn this track very quickly. For those of you that don't know, when I was racing in cross karts last season, I actually got the #1 time in North America for this track. So I'm familiar with the layout for sure, but you know, rear-wheel drive cross kart versus all-wheel drive rally light, it's a different driving style, it's a different monster. So we're gonna have to figure out the track with the car. 44.6, massive improvement over our first lap, but that was out of the blocks, so we're not gonna count that. And the gap is now 2.3 going into the first hairpin. So managed to shave around 0.7 off that lap. And because I saw progress, we're gonna cut this once again. If we're not gonna get flagged for it, we're gonna do it. Y'all can hate, but that's what champions do. Sal, 2.9, now the gap going into this section. Flying a little wide back into the dirt section, powering out early. Now the gap is 3.4. So, are there problems in our dirt section, or is swinging out wide after that hairpin the problem? We're gonna have to figure that out with a little bit of experimentation, but I know for a fact going into this sector right here, AI can't touch us. When we swing it out wide and slingshot ourselves into the dirt section like that, our gap shrinks like crazy. 1.6 as we cross that. Now 1.9 over the line, 44.8 time for that last one. And lap 4 out of 4, we're gonna see if we can catch him. 1.9 is just within the joker delta, and we're gonna go ahead and swing it out wide one more time, see if this really is a source of our problems. And 2.8 at the end of that sector. Perhaps it's the first essence where we're losing all of this time. But we get a lot of updates throughout the course of a very short lap, which I appreciate. Now 2.9, so again, right about on pace with Kay Jensen throughout this entire middle sector. And then right here, grab your hand plate, throw it in wide. Ideally, we grabbed handbrake way too early there. Had to let off the gas and fix ourselves, and we're gonna see, looking to our right to see if we can get him, and something flies off Jensen's car. I don't know what he hit, but 309.9, oh my God. Did you guys see him almost hit us there? Rallycross is a trip. There's always something going on. But all that matters, winning that race, 309.9 for the race in our heat, and that actually gives us the victory overall. Me and Kay Jensen were absolutely flying right there. And a quick leaderboard check, 1,457th. Yikes. Yeah, yikes indeed. But continuing on with the rest of the weekend, loading it up for qualifier 3. We've got notes now. End of qualifier 2, again, AI really not that much of a struggle here, even when we are absolutely missing apexes and butchering these racing lines. So we're winning these qualifying sessions by like 5 to 6 seconds minimum. So obviously, we got to keep pushing. We got to keep on for those leaderboard times. Now, 1400, that's pretty below par compared to what we're used to on this channel. So, qualifying 3, left-hand side of the grid, if we ever had an opportunity to just send it in the beginning, solidify our first place, and just focus on lap times, this is the one. Lights go up, so do the revs, and let's see if we can get a decent launch here. We're waiting for them to come down. Lights go down any second now. Green means go and we launch it, and I believe that was around 3/10 once again, but because we're on the left-hand side, we have the advantage of being able to just piss missile this car. Oh my god, never mind, getting shoved into the sausage curve. Now, luckily, these cars have incredible suspensions, and I will eat that up a couple times before things get really bad, but grabbing handbrake for literally no reason, going to that first asphalt hairpin, we're down quite a bit. Maybe this isn't the one where we set a solid leaderboard time, but we'll see. We can lock in here, maybe focus more on the grip approach. I've been grabbing a lot of handbrake going into these corners, just getting the car sideways, and that isn't always the fastest way around the track, but it is sometimes the easiest, especially in these all-wheel drive cars. But now, a little upset, a little offended that we got that bad of a launch and got shoved going into that course. So we're going to hit the switchback into the Joker, watch your way around these sausage curves, power the car as early as possible, and we have now Jokered still in third place. So a little bit of a gap to second, bigger gap to first, but that's a good thing. We have just the track in front of us to lay down the biggest heater that we possibly can. Lap 2, send it through that asphalt hairpin, not going as wide. We can get on the power pretty early and not have to go all the way out wide there, and we have learned this at this point. So hard on the brakes, in a straight line, send it aggressively into the section, and it seems like the handbrake, as I try my best to avoid that whatever came off of these cars up here, it seems like that handbrake into that dirt section is the way to go. You can get a tight apex on that barrier, send it straight into the dirt section, and just look at the speed that we maintain for the rest of that lap. It would appear that if we get that first sector down, the rest of the lap is pretty much on lock, and that's a great thing to find out mid-race when you're chasing leaderboard times. Now, we're trying a bunch of different things here. Aggressive handbrake send into the asphalt hairpin, or I guess S's section more realistically, now into the hairpin. We're trying everything. We're constantly looking at the gap to P. Horvath and using that as a guide to how our lap times are going. The AI tend to be pretty consistent when they're out on their own, so if our gap is shrinking when we try something new, we know that that most likely works, and that's all that we're doing throughout these runs to figure out the fastest time possible. Now, gap is 3.3 to first place right now, but we are gaining on him to the best of our ability. You'll notice we hit a 44.4, pretty rapid here in lap 3, as it appears Horvath is missing the entire back half of his car. I don't know what is going on this weekend. Cars are literally falling apart, but this is the big one. Final lap of the race across, very careful in the S sections, just tiptoeing with that balance. And again, another piece falling off P. Horvath's car as we are trying our absolute hardest to hit a banger lap here. Really good exit through that asphalt hairpin into the braking zone. A quick little braking section, double downshift, grab a little bit of handbrake around the corner into the dirt section as straight as possible so that we can be on the power throughout this entire little section right here. Find that wall on the inside, use it as a reference point to straighten the car out, grab handbrakes and slingshot your way around that second sausage curve, look at the late apex, send it around Horvath, and we know he's got to hit his Joker, so we're just going to send it through. And now, we know we don't have to slow down to make this next exit section, so over the line, full speed, 308.912, and I was very, very on point with the calls for that entire lap. For a good reason. Uploading the result. Now, I did not have any third-person replays for that. I just forgot to watch the replay, but that's because I was very excited about what we're about to see right now. Looking over the current standing of the weekend as if you didn't know that we're winning. But look at this. 184th. That's what I'm talking about. 184th in the world globally. That's what we're talking about right there. No tune, no nothing, just
two precision drivers.
Now, unfortunately, this precision driver decided to absolutely fumble the bag in qualifier 4, so we're going to hit it with that fat skip. And as we cross the line in qualifying 4, 308.260. Now, it's a pretty good race time, but all of our laps were unfortunately not up to par with our last leaderboard times. You see, 308.6, a lot of good times, obviously coming away with a lot of points, but when we go to go check the leaderboard, still 184th. So, going into the semifinals, we now have 2 more laps per race to determine or attempt our world record time. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of tuning here. And again, I'm not going to showcase all of this. If you guys care about my tuning and the thought process when I'm adjusting these cars, let me know down below. I will start leaving it in, but for the sake of time saving, and some people might not care, I won't show you everything that I do to the car. So loading in for the semifinal, usually a big deal, usually a lot of pressure, but with this track and this level of AI, we're kind of just getting it over with at this point. So left-hand side of the grid, first place. If we can cement ourselves into a good position early, this will be exactly like I just described it, a little bit of a cakewalk. But we're still going to push for that leaderboard time, and let's see how we go. Decent reaction from us. It seems like there's no pressure on the right-hand side. Braking into turn one on the inside is where things can get sketchy, and yeah, it looks like Horvath sends it around the outside pretty well. Honestly, a great job under braking from him. Into the asphalt hairpin. The late apex, as I'm watching this now, seems like it might be the better way to take that corner, which would make sense given how these all-wheel drive cars tend to drive, but it looks like that is not something that clicked with me as I was driving, because again, as we get pressure from whoever that was on our right-hand side, yanking too much handbrake into some of these sections when you're racing other cars does leave the door wide open, and you can't fault them for taking that. The contact is there because you allowed it to happen. So we're going to try and separate ourselves, learn when we need a joker and when we don't, and we're going to go ahead and joker right now. Separate ourselves from the pack so that we can continue to drive with our aggro driving style, because it works for us, unless we're in traffic. Now, it looks like we got that joker done, staying ahead of everyone, which is huge for our race. Now, the only person we're genuinely racing is Horvath. Now, he is further ahead of us than the joker delta stipulates, which is not ideal, but we know we have the pace to catch him, and we're on the pace to set leaderboard times anyways, so we're not really worried about him. Into this braking zone, you see, absolutely butchered this section. I was close on the inside through that exit, but on the grass here, or dirt that is, we don't have as much speed as we usually do. Almost towards the top of fifth, braking hard, grab your handbrake, swing it around, hit that very late apex so that you can just send it into this dirt section right here. You got to catch it. Now, tuning-wise, I do fix this significantly later. You'll see that we hit a little bonus special at the end of this episode. But tuning this car, the sideways factor, or sometimes it's unwillingness to just straighten itself out, even if you're on the power and counter steering, was something that we needed to address for this thing to get faster. Now, I didn't notice it over the course of just this weekend. I didn't put in nearly as many practice laps as I usually do. But these are all things to note. These are all things that I want to highlight to you guys when you're playing these games. I will say it again. I am by no means a tuning expert in these games, but I will say you can learn a lot about your car by just driving it. And if there's something that you hate that the car does, there's most likely something you can do about the setup to change it. So for these all-wheel drive cars, if they feel incredibly sluggish on the turn-in or just completely unwilling to throw it in when you yank that steering wheel, give it a little bit of toe out, right? And that's just one example of hundreds that you can do to improve your car. But if you feel like you have your car and you just can't improve anymore and you're scared or unknowledgeable in tuning, don't be. All you have to do is teach yourself over time, and also the internet, right? There are plenty of sim racing communities who are actually pretty nice and will share a lot of information with you. Maybe this channel, as it grows, I'd love to build a community of people who can just answer questions. And look at this, around the outside, drifting around P. Horvath throughout that corner and getting the overtake on track. Who needs the joker advantage? That's exactly what I'm talking about. See what happens when you tune the car and the confidence grows. Look at the send going into that first sector, just right around the sausage curb on the handbrake. Now, realistically, I would not be driving like I am right now, especially for a 6-lap rake, because these tires would be cooked. And I don't know if you guys know this, but racing tires are ridiculously expensive. So in real life, I would not be driving this aggro, but it's working for us in the sim, and we just want to win at this point, right? Going through the dirt section one more time. It's try to be in a straight line as often as possible. Under braking, you want to purposely let that weight drift out towards the right rear, and then grab handbrake to solidify the motion, sling yourself around that sausage curb into the dirt section, and then it's just a straight line essentially all the way to the grid. And we're going to slam the brakes in the grass, get the wheels spinning by the time we're back on tarmac, and continue business as usual. 44.3 for that lap. Still not really up to par with the best one that we hit. I don't know what we were on in qualifying 3, but we just really put everything together. And I don't think I really clicked with me in the semifinals and finals, but the less slidey, more grippy approach is definitely the faster way. I think Rallycross will give you a little bit of false hope to drive like regular rally, where being sideways is not only preferred, but kind of the better way to do it. here in Rallycross, you have enough of an asphalt section to try the traditional racing line, try to keep grip, power out as early as you can. It's just these all-wheel drive cars, especially on tarmac, there's only so much you can do with the differential and the suspension. They're going to be understeery, they're going to be wheel hoppy, and you just want to balance that throttle, hit it as well as you can. Now, we unfortunately did not do that over the course of the semifinal and refused to beat our personal best yet again. But we have one more 6th lap opportunity as we verify our suckage. 184 is still where we stand. 3.4 seconds, by the way. For anybody that's tried to climb Dirt Rally 2 leaderboards, there's like a threshold between people that play the game casually, people that are pretty quick and just happen to set a good time, which is usually where I fall, and then people who just dedicate their lives to setting the most absurd time possible, because we're pretty quick. And to be 3.2 seconds behind the best lap and still be 184th is mind-boggling to me. 184th in the world is a pretty good staple. 3.5 seconds on a short track, that's abysmal. I don't understand how it happens, but these guys are different. Now we're gonna try and climb one more opportunity going into the final. A little bit of damage that we've acquired over the course of the weekend to be expected, and this thing is surprisingly cheap to repair compared to the Impreza. I think that entire repair job was like $1,300, and $1,300 in the Impreza is just the wheel geometry. So, saving a bit of money, improving our portfolio of wins. One more race to go. Can we get the leaderboard? Can we get the win? Let's find out. All right, loading in, holding that handbrake firm. As the lights go up, so do the revs, getting ready to drop it. The preliminary lights go out right now. Now I just wait for the green and launch it accordingly. Looks like we got a decent launch compared to everyone else, and being on the left-hand side has certainly helped us. Going into turn 1 hard under braking, and once again, soaring around the outside is one of our competitors. I believe that is A. Johnson, who has managed to get the advantage on us early. Going into the asphalt hairpin, just hugging that inside line so we don't get overtaken, sweeping all the way out to the outside. Pretty clockwork at this point. Now, I really doubt that third place is going to send a lunge up the inside of his corner, and it looks like he does not. So we are free to grab handbrake, take our usual racing line into the dirt, and catch back up with A. Johnson as soon as we can. Now, 1.3 is the gap going into the end of turn 1. Now, that is before anyone has jokered, so it's not relevant, but trying the outside overtake again sees us sending it to the inside. Now, we're going to use that momentum to swing it wide into the joker and send it through the S sections, getting a little caught up on those sausage curves. Definitely takes away the advantage that we had from that final sector. So back online with A. Johnson. 1.2 is the gap, so still realistically within the joker range. But then again, under braking into the asphalt hairpin, not necessarily a lockup, but definitely came in too high. A lot of understeer throughout that section. You all saw that happen. And now trying to find our line through this section that we've been pretty decent at. Anything after the section that you just saw in third person through the end of the lap, we are pretty consistent with. But as you can see from the time, 1.8, the beginning of the lap is definitely a faltering point for us, to say the least. Again, trying the inside line on A. Johnson. It looks like we're not going to get as close this time over the tiny little jump. That jump looks a lot worse than it actually is. You don't get that much air, so it doesn't unsettle the car. Straight across the finish line, 44.6 as the time. So although we went into this final trying to chase leaderboard times, it seems like we have to actually race for this one. A. Johnson stepping up the competition in the final race. Now we are still behind him with the advantage of the joker. 1.4 now the gap, so within that joker delta, but we're going to have to drive hard for the rest of this session just to ensure that we win, not even to make sure that we can get that, fastest time. But it looks like in order to win, we're going to have to step it up. 1.7 the gap going into this final sector. Now again, yank the handbrake around the outside, trying something special. Now we're along the inside, neck and neck with A. Johnson. He was slow through that sector. We're going to be racing bumper to bumper throughout this section. I see him on the left-hand side. We're going to try the switch back into the braking zone. He shoves me out wide, and that's exactly what happens. Look at that understeer. Look how wide we went crossing the finish line there into lap 4. His contact there just sent us to the outside of the track. Not ideal, and we have to climb that mountain once again. We're going to see the gap here in a second. 1.5, basically starting where we were last lap, despite how close that racing was. So now, going back into the section where we know we perform better, just a little bit of a handbrake grab, allow yourself to set up as straight as possible into this dirt section so you can be foot to the floor. You want as much momentum as you can in these dirt sections. We do have all-wheel drive, but it's still the dirt, and if you can keep momentum to then accelerate further, just like that, maybe maybe giving him a little bit of his own medicine, shoving him into the wall there, but rubbing his racing, especially in Rallycross. And we have now gotten the move done. Going back into lap 5, watching the understeer, you hear the tires screeching. That transition, haven't talked about it much this weekend, but the transition between the asphalt and dirt, it's a big one, and we saw a lot of understeer going into that. And again, in real life, tires would be not necessarily flat spotted, but definitely hurting, and we're just gonna ease it through the rest of this final. The gap to A. Johnson is now 0.7 at the end of this, and he still has yet to joker. So unless we have a monumental screw up, it looks like this weekend's victory is in the bag. But we're gonna see what happens. Grabbing handbrake here, looking for that second sausage curve. Clockwork at this point. Catapult yourself into the dirt section. And right now, mentally, I'm thinking, okay, you've got one shot to just absolutely catapult yourself into a good lap. Set it up well, man. So 44.9 is that last lap. We want to ensure maximum speed, maximum grip throughout this section. Going in a little bit wide for the hairpin, looking for a later apex on the gas, and just on the gas way too early. Did not hit that apex late enough, on the gas too early, swinging out wide, hitting the wall, and realistically, this lap is not going to be faster than what we set previously. So in the race, unfortunately, incapable to improve on 184th in the world. But as far as our career goes, it looks like we have once again coasted to an easy Rallycross victory, sending it into the Joker turnover section one more time over the little dirt chum, and we're gonna just sail across the finish line for what will be yet another Rallycross victory here on the channel. Look at him. Keanu is so excited, as he should be. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of coin. And man, this season, even though the difficulty has definitely stepped up a little bit, they're nothing. They ain't got what it takes. And once again, the championship handedly moves towards our favor. Now, we're not going to watch the replay, but we are going to check the leaderboard. And yes, 184th was the fastest we could set. But we did not give up there. I'll show y'all in a second. But first, we've got a ceremony to attend. Go ahead and hit continue. Top step of the podium in Abu Dhabi. The good times keep rolling. Look at that. C Racing, 30 points more towards our championship tally. And man, what a victory background, huh? $56,000 netted to the team. And with how expensive those repairs are for the Impreza, getting what is basically a free 60 grand. Very appreciated. We can use all the help that we can get in repairing our rally car. But as Rallycross goes, first place back to back to back in the Rallycross Championship. And mathematically, if we win in Belgium, or honestly, I think even if we get like third in Belgium, we have won this championship. So one more race to go before the difficulty stacks up. And as far as the leaderboards go, using to take that lying down, you can see here 42.59 as we cross the finish line in this one. And if we go ahead and check the leaderboards, that is 99th in the world. 2.8 off the best time, but top 100 global. And why I'm scrolling up right now is to showcase to you that once again, CD Racing, fastest Dirt Rally 2 player in America. I've got the proof. I've got the receipts. If anyone wants to challenge me, be my guest. But for now, CD Racing reigns supreme as far as America is concerned. And what a better way to round out an episode than that fact right there. And that is, in fact, the end of the episode. I know this one's a little bit shorter than usual because it was pure dominance, and I really didn't feel like showcasing just a bunch of random stuff. This one was pretty easy, once again, and I have now made the executive decision to skip the rest of this championship. I don't think it's going to shock anyone that this one's pretty much in the bag. So we're going to come back next season. Rallycross cars, no asterisk, no nothing. We are going straight to the 600 horsepower all-wheel drive monsters that are the top flight of Rallycross vehicles. And if any of you viewers want to see a specific vehicle, I have the original Rallycross cars and the 2019 edition. So any vehicle that fits or, floats your boat, put it down in the comments. Like I've said many times, the channel is still small. I see all the comments that come through here. And if you want to see a specific car, specific livery, let me know. And as long as you get the most likes or no one else says anything, we're rocking your car for the next season. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to heel toe that like and subscribe combo. It really helps the channel out more than you think. And if you made it all the way to the end, go ahead and hit me with something along the lines of I'm excited for Rallycross. Let's bring in the big guns, something so I know that you made it to the end, because you guys hold a special place in my heart. But once again, for the final time this episode, thank you guys for stopping in. I'm CD Racing, and as always, I will catch you in the next one.